just coming into space. I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to come on while I finish turning things off. So you guys are going to have to tell me, or if it's okay. I have my headphones plugged in. I'm pretty sure I can hear myself through them. I double checked it. Let's see, morning announcements. I am so ill prepared today, you guys. Today is like one of those days where I'm just showing up. I'm showing up. I'm still in my jammies. I've been cleaning up the rabbit cage in the house. It is hot as bejesus here already, in our house especially. It's very warm. And I've got a fan blowing on me. I'm just here. I'm here today, guys. This is part of being in this transparency with all of you. Good morning. Yes, I do have a full set. I was kind of thinking about, and tell me what you guys think about this. We did this once before and it turned out super fun. And I do feel like we're in kind of a transition of what we're going to be focusing on in Morning Oasis. And I was thinking what we could do today is we could do like what we did once before when we did one big reading. So I was playing yesterday with my Messenger Oracle cards. Good morning, Elizabeth. And Elizabeth, you asked me a question on Friday, and I also wanted to answer that today. So I can't remember exactly. It was, I think it was something, if we're all clan, are we all going through something together? But remind me, what was your exact question? And I definitely want to answer that today. So first of all, morning announcements. The fair was awesome, you guys. We met so many amazing people. I'm going to say this right now. Like most of you may not know, I came from the country, right? Good morning. Hello, Jolene. I came from the country. I lived in the country. I grew up in the country. I was a horse farmer. My mom was a horse farmer. We bred and showed and raised Arabs. I grew up on the back of a horse with a pitchfork in my hand, some hay in my hair, and probably shit on my shoes. So I have lived all over the country. I was born in California and Santa Cruz and lived all around that Monterey Bay area and in San Diego. I lived over in Maryland and Rhode Island. Thank you very much. I lived in New Mexico. I lived in Eastern Oregon. I lived off the backside of Mount Hood. I have lived in small towns kind of all over the U.S. And so I really feel a kinship to those yokels, right? To those hicks, to the people who are the salt of the earth people. And though I'm a city girl right now in my life and have been for my adulthood, it is definitely in my heart. And one of the things that I recognize living in a city, especially a city like Portland that believes itself to be the liberal mecca of the world, the most open-minded of places, they have a very strong misconception of small towns. And yes, there's a lot of hard things about living in a small town, and there can be some extremely closed-minded people, and they can in general be in conservative environment. However, they're always, if you can speak in the context and the language with which people who live in more rural communities come from, you will find that there are some amazing, gifted individuals out there. Now, McMinnville is not that small of a town, actually, and it has a beautiful little, I couldn't believe how beautiful that downtown district is. It was really cool, neat restaurants and shops and businesses, and and a thriving energy community, at least what we saw. And it was a powerful group of individuals that are holding space in these spaces where our food comes from, like the spaces where our air comes from. These individuals are out working in those places. Yeah, 40,000 people. So not that small. It's not, I mean, I lived in a town that had 160 people. So I've been in really small towns. But what we tend to get into is this idea that rural or hick means ignorant, and it really doesn't. It's just, they just have a completely different context and a completely different way of speaking. I agree, Shauna. Jess Jones, you are doing some awesome work out there, and it was an honor to meet you and to share your space and share part of your name. I'm not a Jessica, but awesome to have a name like yours. And I feel like it was such a great event. It was so powerful. And then I had some of my students and some of my friends and some of my favorite people pop up, and it was just like, oh, it felt like family coming together. And that was my dream of what a healing fair would be like. That it's not just healing for your energy or your psyche, it's healing for your soul, right? And coming into a space and just knowing that any person there you can walk up to and their family, you know. And I loved that. We had we ended up having, we had Amanda doing henna. She made her own tarot cards out of her own henna designs and did readings with them, and then whatever image on those designs, or if something else came to her, she did a custom henna work on you, piece on your hand, on your palm, or on the back of your hand. I'm kicking myself for not going to her as soon as we set up, because the rest of the day all of us were just pretty busy. I mean, I know most of us were from that point forward busy until I didn't finish until like 4:30 was my last reading, even though the fair ended at 4. So, let's see, we had Teresa Wolf Silva reading runes in the back corner, doing a traditional rune reading. And she normally won't do it because it's kind of loud, and she fears feeling like she's, being too, other people will get upset with her, but she knew she could do what she needed to do there. And the people who came to me after seeing her had this kind of like, so she was really helping people connect in with not just this life, but other strands. She's got some sight on her. It's amazing. Then we had Katarina doing body work. So Katarina's an extremely experienced, licensed, practicing massage therapist. But what she's doing with us is her own completely unique blend, bringing in all these modalities that over a lifetime she has been learning and honing. It was amazing, and having her, it was kind of like we were all in a square with her in the center. So the person that she was working on's head was literally right in the center of the room. And every person who sat up from that table had an amazing experience, having each of the 4 corners held in this space of energy, work, and love, and vision, and clarity, and source consciousness just streaming in. It was amazing. So I talked to one person who came, and she was mentioning that she couldn't roll her shoulders back. She didn't have any backward shoulder motion, and she's a weightlifter, and we were talking, and I told her how I went to Katarina when I had shoulder problems, and it was really my wing area, and the way that she moved my shoulders and did work on them, I don't even have the hitch anymore in my shoulders. So afterward, we had ice cream together, this woman and I, and her son, who's my friend and student, and we all went out to ice cream together. And she said that she's never had so much movement in her shoulders. She was like, I'm going to go see her for a full session. And then we had Shauna doing her angelic channeling. She brought people to their knees in tears. Like, I saw a couple people Good thing you brought 2 Kleenex, Shauna. My God. She was really helping people. It was amazing. And then I had my table, and then in the other room we had Jess Jones doing her readings and channelings and work, and she was in another room, so I really didn't get to see her very much. We had Ricky doing oysters with pearls. We had macaroons. We had Kristen at the door, and she was taking, so this is something else we did. Kristen has a portable printer, so if you want, when you come to the fairs, she can take your picture with one of us after a reading or of your reading, and you can get a sticker print up of your picture. We can also email it to you, and if you're willing, we can put it on the website. So that was the fair, you guys. It was freaking amazing. It was awesome. So look forward to the next one. I love Jess's space. I love it there. It's a little far from Portland, so what we might be doing is jumping around. Who knows? It'll all play itself out and come together really perfectly. So I wanted to just tell you guys how amazing that was, how awesome it was to sit in that space with all of you, and for all of you who came, good morning, Alex. It's awesome to have you here at the fair. Thank you so much. That was just, it blew my mind. We met so many amazing people. Okay, so then that's the morning announcements. We have on Saturday is the lunch with Jessie. There's still tickets available for that. The price, I changed the price on it, I think I lowered it a little bit. Felt like, we could do better. It is longer. It's 3 hours. It's in my house. It's an organic meal cooked from scratch. Everything you need. And we will just see what the discussion, where it takes us and what we're going to be doing, and it's going to all come together. It was, Jolene, it was an awesome time, really, truly an awesome time. And I'll say this one last thing about the fair. This is what I loved about the fair. Every single person that was there was showing up uniquely as they themselves had been guided and inspired and evolved into being. You know, nobody is there asking for permission to be witnessed in doing somebody else's work. They were doing their work, the work that they came here to do. And that was why I think it was just such a powerful experience. I know the next day I had like a total hangover off the energy because it was so high in there. None of us ate. None of us workers ate the entire time. Like, we were all going from 10 until 5 basically. And they were all like, oh, did you eat? No, I forgot to eat. Because it was just like so high. It was supporting all of that. So I do think, I was saying earlier that I thought it might be fun to do a collective card reading. And we can kind of see where is the energy shifting us into focus. But before that, I'm going to answer the question that Elizabeth posed. Okay, so she said, do we through similar situations if we are a clan? Yes, so because we're a clan, let me just explain in my understanding what that means, that being a soulkin clan or being the soul family. You know, and this is just a story. This is the story that makes sense, that I tell myself, and take it or leave it. It is up to you. This is what I was shown when I was trying to understand, because when I first started to awaken, I saw myself in a whole, like in a room. It was a dream. And this is actually before I started doing energy training even. A woman told me I was a medium. This was about six, maybe almost 7 years ago now. She was like, "You're a medium." And I said, "No, I'm not." And she goes, "Yes, you are. They were trying to get me to actually to be an admin on this really big alien page on Facebook." And I was like, well, what would I do? What would I say? Because I was posting things. And you see, I didn't come into energy consciousness work via consciousness work. I came into it via I started in the more science and alien realm. I grew up with, I have a whole history of that, which I don't talk about very often. So anyway, she was telling me this, and she gave me some instructions on what to do that night when I went to sleep. So I went to bed and I did what she had said, and I had this incredible dream. The dream was that, and I've told this story on the Crystal Cocoon, so if you've been following me since way back then, you've probably already heard it, but anyway. So the dream was that I woke up, I came to, and I'm like walking, and I hear around me the sound of boots on metal grates specifically. Now, my stepfather and father both were in the Navy, and I used to go visit my stepfather. He was a lieutenant commander on a battleship. When he would be at port, we would sometimes go and visit the battleship. We'd get to tour through the whole thing. There's a very unique sound when you're inside of a military vessel. It's a sound of boot metal echo, empty, confined space, and that sound, you never forget it. And that was the sound that I heard, and it was kind of dark, but the lighting it was more like some soft orange kind of light, like down low at the ground, and we were all walking along. We could kind of see each other though. And I was with a tight team. I don't know exactly how many were there because I was so overwhelmed, and there was like maybe 3 or 4 in front of me, maybe 3 or 4 behind me. And somebody slapped me hard on the back, and they're like, "Good job. Geez, man, it took you long enough to get back here. Like, what the fuck have you been doing?" And it was this really like hard slap, kind of like I remember having to catch my foot as I'm walking, totally unexpecting it. But at the same time, it shocked me back even more into this vessel that I was walking in. And I'm kind of just absorbing all of this. And we come to this doorway, and the doorway is glowing blue. It looks like glass. And the door just suddenly isn't there, and we enter into this whole gigantic sphere. It was this glowing blue sphere that was huge. I can't even describe how big it was. And I could see people, I mean, standing all through the sphere, but it's not like they're oriented to the outside, and it's not like they're standing really on anything. And I'm seeing all of them, and I would say there were maybe a couple thousand. It was like an audience, but not really. They're all in little clusters and groups and all around. And they tell me that as soon as I enter the room, it's silent according to my ears, but so loud in my mind. And everyone is saying, "You're home. Welcome home. We missed you." And it was this overwhelming just wave through my whole body of a feeling and sense of belonging. That was a profound experience, and I do believe that from that point forward, everything in my life started to align to get me to where I am now, who I am now. And I know now so much more about what that was, and what was happening there. So that has been a guiding force in my life, just moving and shifting and growing me. So Soulkin is what you asked me about, and Star Family. I know that's my family. You know, that's like my greater clan. And that was how I first discovered that there's going to be a community here, incarnated here, where when we're not in these vessels, we are in other vessels, and we're this tight family. Now, how do those families come about? So, this has been a journey for me since that point, to start to understand and figure out what's going on, and why are there some people that show up into my life and I'm like, I have known you forever, so let's just skip all the pleasantries. How have you been? What? Can you imagine what we've been through? Like, oh my gosh, So there are these people that we encounter, and they just feel like they're part of a piece of you, and you feel like it just locks in and you're all, oh yeah, there you are. Good job. Thanks for finding me. Okay, let's go find some more. And the more you find, the quicker it happens. It's like you gain in your magnitude of attraction and get more and more of your soul kin around you. And even if they're spread across the world, we have the internet that's connecting us and giving us the awakening messages and all of this stuff. So for me, understanding what was happening was critical. I'm a thinker. I struggle to bring the thinking down into the heart. That's how I can help so many of you who are also that way, because that's something we all share. We're a family. It's one of the traits of us. So I went on this journey, and I don't even know how many hours and hours and hours of meditation on this concept, talking with Source, talking with angelics, talking with galactics, and getting these stories. And the same story pretty much came through. And once I'd gotten the story through this way, then suddenly, which I've always been sheltered and protected from all the Abrahamic religions and all of their context, I suddenly found myself immersed within them and hearing, oh, the story. So that same story. It's very similar to the story that we learn in, if you're a Christian or if you're Islamic, the creation story. And except those stories are told through a filter that made them acceptable contextually to the peoples of that time. So they're very tribal stories. So we have to allow for that too when we're learning them. So the story that was told to me is that we have not just one, but many, many sources, many gods, right? And there are many of them, and they're all in this process of learning who they are. Now, when we want to learn who we are as an individual, as a human, we go out into the world and we start to experience things and people, and we see who we are, and really that's what school is, I believe, is a great uncovering of who you are, because you're surrounded by all these mirrors of people that you would never be. You're like, I'm not that guy, I'm not that guy, I'm not that guy, right? So we see who we are not, and that's usually how we approach ourselves, is by looking at the multiplicity and seeing what we are not, what doesn't feel right for us, and shifting and shifting and shifting. Well, Source is the same, and just like there are many of us, and we're all part of a greater collective Source, there are many of them, and they're all part of a greater collective. So whether you're from a piece from this source, or a piece from that greater collective consciousness, or a piece from the greater whole, the all, we all ultimately stem from the all, right? And those fractions and those divisions that come off from different points and different ways all along are going to have groupings that then break up from there. Think about like an orange. We see that the orange is one piece of fruit growing on a greater tree with many, 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 many other oranges, right? And when we go into the orange, we can divide it into segments. And then when we go into the segments, we can divide them into pulp fibers. That's very similar, a perfect analogy for what we all are. Now, some of us are a pulp fiber. And some of us, that's because that's where we're awoken to. But that pulp fiber is just as much a part of the tree of the greater whole, right? And it's just as critical of a component. It's no more valuable or no less valuable than the greater tree. Its job is to create nutrients and protection and a space and a juice, a flavor, a smell, right? The essence of the tree to feed the seed for the next tree. These are all critical components and critical parts. So as you begin to awaken, first you awaken to the pulp self, and you're like, oh my God, I'm this piece of pulp. Okay, all right, okay, so I'm in this wedge. I'm in this segment. Okay, this is my soul family. This kind of segment, the grouping. And then as you really start to get that and you find all of the pieces and it becomes a full integration and not evaluation, not polarity based, but true unity based, then you start to gain conscious awareness of the whole segment of that orange, that whole wedge. And once you understand the lessons of the wedge, then you begin to understand the lessons of the orange. And once you understand the lessons of the orange, then you begin to understand the lessons of the branch and the leaves. And it continues until you come into the core in that main stem. And then you begin to open and you begin to learn the lessons of the grove of oranges. Right? So that's what you're doing as you're on this journey. Now your soul family are the people that are coming from that same orange. They're like, oh man, are you on orange number blah, 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 blah? This one's all about love. That's what we're all learning here, and polarity. And we're learning about that from this density of expression. Oh, thank God. And we feel this kinship. And when we start coming together, what we see is the similarities between us. Oh, you went through that? I totally went through that. Oh my God, you had that experience? Me too. And then you start seeing, oh my gosh, they're in the same order. And then as you begin to gain in your progression with this soul family, you see how things are occurring for all of you. It's a collective experience that's moving you forward. So once that happens, it makes the unity piece so much easier, because then you're like, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one. I'm not crazy. This isn't just happening to me. I'm not being punished. I'm not having any of these things that have told me before that something is wrong with me, that there's something that's missing, or that I've done something to deserve the pain. No, these are the lessons the soul family is here to learn. This is what we're here to experience. And then as we come together, we can help the whole tree in its experience and its growth. So long as we're a good orange, we can grow that next consciousness, because essentially source consciousness, the all, is everything, and it's always learning, and it's always growing, and it's always deconstructing, and it's always flowing. So when you start finding your soul family, yes, you do experience many of the same things. We experience a reactive experience to the energies that are coming through, right? So we've talked about that before, how the solar energies that are changing. The sun is our source consciousness. The sun is our consciousness for this system. Each star consciousness is the God, the one, for that system. And they are a collective consciousness in and of themselves. I didn't understand it till I remembered it, right? And tuned into that. And we all can do that. It takes time and training and practice and ultimately believing that you can. The only real thing is just breaking the belief that you can't, right? Anything that makes you not believe in magic. So I know that was kind of a long explanation for answer to your question, Elizabeth, but it all needed to be said. So, okay, so let's do a reading. We're doing it kind of a little bit backwards. There's a reading spread that I thought I would do for all of us, and this is just how we can kind of focus ourselves. This new moon energy that's coming through, it's really, really strong right now. And not only is it strong, your choice is to either ride it or to break. You know, you're either going to allow it to shift you and move you and guide you, or it's just going to break you. And I say that with love. I truly do, I swear. Okay, so what I'm going to do is a collective reading for us on how we can best where we're at right now, and how we can best use this now, this here and this now, to move forward. And that was what I was thinking. I was doing a lot of tarot spreads for myself last night, reading spreads last night, and then I ended up having to just talk with my friend about all the stuff that was coming through. And such a perfect and amazing and great reading. Thank you. Kicked my ass. Oops. Chair rolling away. I had 2 cards just fall out, so I'm just going to show you guys what they are real quick. And it's embrace spirit and let the emotions flow. So it's time to just really just let that flow. Speak your truth. Embrace what's happening, where you're coming from, what you're doing. Let yourself be guided, because right now the Great Spirit is moving all of her little canoes right where she wants them, and into whatever river it is that she feels they need to be on. So all we can do is hold on. Hold on for the ride. Okay, so I'm almost cleared off on my desk for being able to do this reading for you guys. I had him cleared it mostly off, but you know, it's messy. Okay, there we go. So this spread is a very different kind of spread. It's called the Gaia spread. One of the reasons I absolutely love it, I'm going to show it to you guys. This is from Raven Felon's Oracle book. This is her little guidebook that comes with her deck for this one. And it's called the Gaia Tree Spread. And each card in position, it's a very different way of reading the cards. For instance, and no coincidence, this is the spread I want to do. And I actually hadn't consciously put that together until just now. Look at that light. Wow, so yellow. So for instance, the trunk represents you, the seeker, right? And the branch is the current mood or energy that is going on in the environment of the reading. And I'll explain them as we go. But so it talks about the branches and then the leaves, and then the roots and then the reaching, right? So it's a great spread. It's really fun. This is one of the reasons that I love playing with the books, because the authors come up with these amazing readings and spread formats that we all are here to gift each other with. Okay, so I'm going to shuffle and get our reading going. And yeah, if you guys, while I'm doing so, want to talk a little bit about, anybody wants to share what they did for the new moon, or how they're feeling as this new moon energy is surging through, or rather, pulling, I guess would be better, a better way of saying that. Okay, there we go. So for me, you know, for those of you who haven't played with cards very much, you know, there's lots of different ways. Some people just shuffle till they feel like it's done, cut if they feel like they should. Some people will pick up and drop, and then this is the card they pull off, or this is the card. And there's all different ways to pull card spreads and readings. For me, I shuffle till I get this flush, then I cut and the flush, and then I deal off the top. So for me, that's how I go about it. So I'm going to just lay out the spread really quickly, and then I will move the camera so that you guys can see it. Oh wow, this is going to be cool. And you guys will get to see my messy desk. Oops. And I'm not going to guarantee that we will be reading all of the cards, their full descriptions in the book, because that would take a really long time. Okay, so don't get sick, anybody. I'm going to turn you around. Okay, so this is the reading right here, the full reading. I'm just going to show you guys as we come in. This is the trunk card. Let's see. Make the sacrifice. And then we've got up here the first branch, stay strong. Nurture all you love. Time to reflect. Time to go. Time to ground, excuse me. Hear the ancient ones. We are all connected. Have courage. A lot of these showed up in my reading last night. There's embrace spirit again. These are the roots. We'll talk about each card as we can read the reading more. I'm just giving you guys the overlay. Need and necessity. And do not fear the unknown. That's a big one for me. And then this one, the last card, is know your power. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing the full read. The first card, and it's going to, let's see if I can actually use this to help steady the camera so it doesn't keep shifting in its adjustment, because the iPads are powerful. Nope, that's not going to work. Okay, so we'll just, what I'll do is, there we go. I'll hold it like, where's the camera at? There it is. Okay, so I'll hold it like that. And we'll come over to this card first. Make the sacrifice. So this is the trunk, and it represents us, the seeker. And right now we're in a period of needing to make a sacrifice. I'm thinking what I'll do instead, since you guys have this big overview of it, I'm going to go ahead and put the camera back up here because it's just too wobbly. We'll figure out a better way to do it that eventually, but we'll do it this way. So the first card in this reading is the Make the Sacrifice. It's card 27. There we go. Yeah, see, that's just so much better. See, you guys just get to deal with me while I'm figuring stuff out. So you will not achieve the outcome you desire if you're unwilling to act upon your intentions. And this is exactly what I got kicked in the butt with last night. It's not as simple as wanting something to happen or believing that it will happen. You have to make it happen. And right now is the time. It's the time to just make that sacrifice, make those choices, make those decisions, cut the things that do not work, that are not carrying you forward. It is hard. It is scary. I know. But you can't, if you can't till up the earth and destroy what was there, you can't grow something new. So if we want to make our garden nourish us, we have to be willing to release our attachment to what was there and till it up and move on. So that's the trunk. The next card is called the First Branch. She says this is the current energy or mood in your environment at the time of the reading. This is card 43. And it's stay strong. Life will present you with many trials. Life will bring you times of joy, but also times of suffering. Like the weather, it can be unpredictable, harsh, and cruel. But you can endure all that comes. Know when to rest, know when to resist, and know when to let go. Know that sometimes you will lose, and that loss can make you stronger at the core. Stay strong. With hope and faith, you can endure all. This is just very much for me as well. This is in the current air. I need to learn that I can be strong even in the storm, and even if it breaks my bow, I can pull my ship out, and I can recover, and I can repair, no matter what it is that's coming at me. So just knowing this truth, holding this truth, and being brave as I make the sacrifices that I know I have to make. And I'm getting a sense that many of you are in this energy right now. Or this wouldn't be our collective reading. So the next card is the Second Branch, possible strength or weakness that may have an impact upon the present. And this card is nurture all that you know. Now, when we're doing a reading for ourselves to try to get guidance and understanding and awareness, keeping in context the position is important. So this is again, I'm just going to read this because this one's going to be important for you to really have that awareness. A possible strength or weakness that may have an impact on the present. So this could be your strength, but it could also be your weakness that prevents you from making the sacrifice and knowing that you can be strong enough. Okay? So it's nurturing all that you love. Take the time to nurture the things that you care about so that they may flourish and grow. Your hopes, your dreams, your body, your mind, your spirit, your creations, your relationships. All that is you needs to be cherished, loved, honored, and respected. Without care and attention, these aspects of self can fall into the state of neglect that does not only harm both you and the world around you. Nurture them, and they will bring you peace and fulfillment. So one of the things, the reason that I wanted to say is that it's important to remember the placement of this card, is that sometimes people like us, especially, and I know for me this is true, I can get really lost in the caretaking aspect and the taking care of others, and I forget. Notice the very last thing on that list was with relationship with others. First, your hopes, your dreams, your body, your mind, your spirit, your creations, and your relationships. Remember, so we get lost in taking care of everything and everyone else's dreams, everyone else's needs, everyone else's creations, everybody else's things. We have to remember that we must get lost in our need to also have these things be cared for and nourished. We have to love these things and be grateful for these things in ourselves if we want that to be what grows. And I think too many of us spend way too much of our energy growing other people's dreams and other people's needs, for fear of being rejected, for fear of not having the support, for fear of not having the relationships. But ultimately it's the fear of nurturing and loving the self, facing that self, right? So that feels like it's really important to make clear. The next card is inverted, which tells us that we have some issues, some blockages, some challenges to that. Now, some decks don't read with inverted or not in their book itself. Some readers don't use inversion. I like to use it as a way of signaling there's some blockage there, so it needs a little bit extra flow. And what we'll do during today's reading is we're going to just do those blockage removals and flow work as we discover it in here. So I want to first finish the branches, and then we're going to work on what we found there. Okay. So the card that came up is Time to Reflect. What card number is it? 46. This is the third branch, and it's considered to be the present, what this moment in time right now is. It's funny, I'm having a hard time flipping to the page. It kept going one more and one less. Reflection time. Have you been rushing along, living from one moment to the next without thought or care? Have you failed to notice and acknowledge that all that you have achieved and accomplished is now here and coming? Stop, take a moment to pause and reflect upon all that has happened and all that is happening. See how you have grown. See how you have succeeded in accomplishing. Acknowledge and delight in your journey and understand how it has played a part in creating the you who lives in the present. So we're going to use these three cards, and we're going to drop in. This is how I use energy work with my readings. So we have a frequency of stay strong, pull up your strength, love and nurture yourself and your dreams and your aspirations and your work and your growth and your body and your spirit and your relationships, and give yourself the time to reflect. Stop running away from the analysis state and that reflection state. So let's just pause for a moment, feeling those roots, inviting in Gaia, really beckoning her, asking her to please come in and support us, as she is the great mother of all of our physicalities, and how our physicalities show up in this creation. Let me invite her in, feeling that energy coming up through the body. Try not to direct it with intention or focus. Instead, try to allow it to flow. Let it go where it needs to go, and observe instead of direct. Feeling that warm light of Source beginning to shine down as we ask Source to come into us, to support us in coming back into alignment with our highest of selves. To ask Source to download into us the frequencies that will help our orchestra come into harmony. as we remember who we are in this time and space. We're going to ask Source and Gaia to support us with frequency and consciousness and awareness as we face the sacrifices that we have to make and see our strengths. Call up in front of yourself that which you know you must make sacrifices around. Just bring that in front of you. If it's a person, a job, situation, a role, a business, just see them there, that there. See between you and that other, whatever it may be, a rose bush. See its roots going down as it is rooted deep in the earth. And see the sun shining down on that rose bush that's between you and the other. And allow that rose to open and blossom that's on the bush. Maybe it's one rose, maybe it's many. Don't try to control it or direct it. Just allow it. Look at the colors on the rose bush of the different roses that are showing. These colors directly correlate to the chakra centers or the frequencies of ourselves that we have struggles or wounds that we are working on, ready to change. If it's red, it's in relationship to our root, our feeling of safety, our sense of belonging, sense of being loved. Orange, it's our sacral, our creation, our passion, our feeling like we have a role. If it's yellow, it's our solar plex, our sense of self and personal self, away from that clan, away from that role. Our power. If it's green or pink, it's in relationship to our heart, our nurturing love, our passionate love, the tender love. Can we love and are we loved? If it's blue, it's in relationship to our throats. Are we allowing our mind and our heart to speak? Do we only let one or the other? Do we block the flow of what we receive? If it's in the purples, violets, it's how are we perceiving the world, our creation? How are we seeing it? How are we interpreting it? What do we think about it? As we think about this sacrifice, as we think about the fear, as we face that, knowing how strong we are, as we transition our reflection into seeing and loving and nurturing our creation, our dream, our aspiration. Allow this rose bush to tell you exactly where you're having these struggles, because that is how the other part, the other person, the other situation, the other relationship, the other business, the other whatever it is, the role, that's how that other is serving. They're reflecting these wounds in the self. We're looking wholly at the self now as we reflect. Allow that bush and those roses to swell and grow until they're enveloping both you and the other. And you're both inside, and it continues to grow and swell until you're both inside that one main rose. And feel that frequency of that healing rose, Archangel Raphael's frequency and tuning. And ask for this rose to support you in healing these wounds that needed you to have this situation, these relations that you now must sacrifice because you no longer need them to see the wound. As we thank the other in deep gratitude. Now the next 3 cards are read as the first, second, and third leaf. These leaves represent choices, possible courses of action, or they can be together the theme of what it is that we're moving into. The first one is time to ground. It's card number 45. We all experience moments in our lives when we feel confused, unfocused, and surrounded by chaos and turmoil. These moments are often unavoidable. There as are the lessons that these moments are imparting. My brain is so out there. But how you respond to them is a choice only you can make. Take a deep breath and a moment to pause and reconnect with Gaia and nature. We've got to ground deeply when we're going through these kinds of changes. Hear the ancient ones really dropping in. When we ground really deeply, we're tapping into the guardians of this planet, the consciousnesses of those in Agartha. We're tapping into archetypal consciousnesses, our planetary angels. So hear these ancient ones as they guide from their wisdom, the ground in the present and the now. And you're going to have to start releasing the idea that we are not connected. No, we are all connected. We are all one. We are all a part of the greater whole, but that doesn't mean that we have to stay linked to the situation once we've learned. We already are connected. We're not rejecting, we're allowing, and we're moving on to the next part. It's very different than cutting off and separating in that sense. This isn't about a rejection. This isn't about evaluation or a devaluation. This is about allowing and recognizing the roles. And now it's time to move to the next lesson, the next role. This is what we're going to be working through, this frequency. So let's take a moment to tap in and tune into these ancient ones as we ground a little deeper. Sending our own roots wider. And let us call the ancient guides who, for each of us as individuals, are here, and for all of us as collectives, supporting us, cheering for us. Let's just take a moment to allow them to speak to us if you can hear, to hold us if you can feel, because these are the things they're doing. And let them whisper in your ear. The next card is called the Fifth Branch, and it talks about what the next few weeks, what do we need for the next few weeks? And it's have courage, right? So during this time, during this change of transition, during these big upheaval moments and releasing moments, we have to give ourselves the courage, right? And what is courage? It comes from our sense of who we are, of knowing our truth, knowing that we're following our path. The cowardly lion was only cowardly because he didn't think he could do it, but he went anyway. And it was the act of being cowardly that he found his own courage, his willingness to accept that's what he was, and actually see the strength that came from it. So don't beat yourself up if you don't feel like you're courageous and bold and daring as you go on this new adventure for yourself. Not even the bravest of us thinks that we're strong enough to get through. We're just surviving. We're getting through. And remember, everything that you've been through up until today hasn't killed you yet. So to support ourselves, let's really call on that yellow light. We've spent so much of our lives beating our egos down. Let's bring in some support for our ego as we ask Source to bring in a strand of perfect yellow light that is our optimum egoic frequency and consciousness. And let's bring that yellow strand down. Imagine it just dropping down into the crown. As we let our crown receive the ego with love and gratitude, bringing it down through that third eye as our mindscape receives the light of our true egoic state. Let that sun of light drop down into our throats as our true selves, our conscious state of an individuation, speaks its truth. Let that sun drop down through the heart as we fall in love with who we are. Let that sun drop down into the solar plex as it blossoms into a great, bright light. Feel it dropping down into our sacral, shining the light of who we are into all we create, all we feel passionate about. Feel that sun dropping down and shining on our darkest of roots, nurturing it, filling it with light. As we shine our sun down, all the way down into Gaia. The next card, these are roots. I haven't done this song before. This is the first root. The first root is someone or something from the present that may have influence right now. And this is where we have embrace the spirit. And this is, if you haven't noticed, it is inverted, which means some of us aren't quite yet embracing spirit into our life, in the sense that this tends to come down to worth, not feeling worthy enough to flow source consciousness. Who am I to be one with God and flow God's energy down through me? Who am I is what I'm feeling. But you're a spiritual being living a physical life. Embrace spirit in your journey and reaffirm your connection with the divine. Let the synchronicities that you see, the things that pop in front of you, that show up, let them guide you. Trust them. They're there for a reason. You are being shown how to flow and navigate in the spiritual path. And it is scary. I know. I'm there. There's rapids that come up and waterfalls and drops and bumps, and you're just like, So that's why we have to really flow the spirit and the source consciousness through us so we can feel the confidence in that flow. If we are the rock and the water, we don't fear the body hitting the rock in the water. We are all things, and we can navigate more clearly. The second root is someone or something from the past that may have influence. And this card is Need and Necessity. Card number 28. I love this card. So much symbolism in it. Night and day exist within the very same moment. Creation and destruction wear the same face. You only see one or the other because you're not seeing the whole. What you may see as harmful, another may believe to be good. What you are seeing, all is based upon perception. In nature, all occurs according to need and necessity, not right and wrong. Ask yourself, is there a genuine need to act? Is change necessary for your continued well-being and happiness? If yes, then act. If no, then do not. So right now it says, remembering this position, right? This position being someone or something from the past. I know for myself, I struggle to act when I know I should. And so I miss opportunities and I miss things that I should have done or should have followed or should have seized. So this is really about, don't let these past patterns. Know that the whole is guiding you, not just the pieces. And look for the whole as you're making your choices in your journey. And that one was not inverted, so it's not necessarily a struggle. The third root is the subconscious feelings and thoughts that we hold around this issue. We're almost done. We just got one more card pull, one more card in this reading, and that'll wrap us up for today. So, do not fear the unknown. The ugly is not always bad and evil, and the beautiful is not always good and just. Failure is not predetermined, nor is it a given that others laugh at you if you choose to follow your dreams. It is your fear of the unknown that makes you question and judge. Do not let another's experience be the truth that guides you. Do not allow your fear of an unknown outcome to hold you prisoner. Your own experience could be both different and rewarding. One of the things that pops for me with this is I've been really talking a lot and having come through for myself and for others while we're talking. We don't have to make, sometimes when we're needing to make a sacrifice, right? When we're needing to make a sacrifice, we tend to make it be something that's a hardship or a bad thing. A sacrificial lamb, so to speak, or in that way, right? We tend to think of it as a loss. But the reality is some sacrifices are great, right? Some sacrifices are actually to our benefit. Sacrificing can actually show us our own strength, our own depth of character. And we don't have to look at it as a bad thing because we don't know what the outcome will be after we have that sacrificial experience. So what would it look like if you know that there's a relationship that has to change, and it doesn't have to be through because one person is bad or the other has done something or because there's some deficit or some lack? What if it's just because the alignment has shifted? And what if the change doesn't have to be a breaking of all, but a shifting of some, right? We can do that too. So that's definitely part of the fear of the unknown, which makes us feel like we have to just break everything. But the reality is if we can find the way to flow in it, really flow in it, then we don't have to necessarily break the whole, throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. So the last card in this reading is the reaching branch. This is called the next few months. And it was inverted, so this is definitely something we're going to be working on. And it's Know Your Power, card number 21. You have choice in all things. Your power is born of that freedom to choose, but with that freedom comes the burden of responsibility. To know your power, you must accept responsibility for your part in all you experience, even when you allow another to impose their choice or their will upon you. You have the power to choose if you wear a saddle or a bridle, or if another will ride upon your back. Your own power. Own your own choices and actions. Know it and see it in all you do, right? This is a really important thing that we have to really understand, is that it is through our own power we created the entire situation that we're having to release ourselves from, that we're removing ourselves from. So by owning it and knowing this truth, we can actually begin to use and be empowered by the experiences instead of being beaten down or fearing the change in them. So I will look at one more card, because for myself, when I do readings, I always look at the bottom card. It is called the shadow card. It's the card we cut off. We don't include in the reading. And it's the card that tells us our shadow nature that we're really looking at. And in this, it's the see the truth. We're ready to see the truth. We're ready to stop lying to ourselves. We're ready to stop hiding what's true. We're ready to stop being what we are not, right? So in this moment, let's just take a moment, take a deep breath, focus in not just on the owl who's guiding the truth, but that sphere that he's holding. Let yourself focus in on that knot. Let's see. Yeah. And just flow. Let the truth of that situation, the knowledge that you've learned, be the best reward for the sacrifice. Love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.